Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The high-stakes first-ever meeting between President Yoon Suk Yeol and main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung wrapped up just a few hours ago. We have our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young live from the Yongsan office. Soo-young, the two leaders began their meeting with the handshake and smile, but how did the talks go? What were the main points raised by the opposition leader?
Good evening, Sung-min. So as you said, the talks started pleasantly enough with smiles and pleasantries and even comments about the fine weather. But opposition leader Lee Jae-myung got down to business straight away as President Yoon gave him the chance to speak first. Now, Lee laid out an array of issues that his Democratic Party of Korea had been pushing for before the meeting was held. First, stressing the need to improve people's livelihoods, citing high inflation, interest and exchange rates. Now, in this regard, he asked Yoon to accept the DP's proposal to hand out 250,000 won or $182 to all Koreans to boost their immediate income, as well as the passing of a special bill on compensating victims of rental fraud. Another key issue or demand was to accept a special council investigation into the death of a Marine last year and a special act to look into the Itaewon disaster where 159 people lost their lives as a result of a crowd crush. The DP railroaded these bills through the National Assembly, only to have President Yoon veto them, along with a special council probe into allegations of stock manipulation, allegedly involving First Lady Kim Gon-hee. He appeared to allude to this too, saying concerns surrounding family members should be cleared up. He then asked the president to express his regret for exercising his veto on such bills and said he hoped Yoon would respect the assembly and recognise the opposition party as a partner in national affairs. That being said, he said that the outcome of the general election showed the people's will and desire for change in how the country is run, saying that this was the final chance for the administration to change its direction in managing state affairs. These controversial points aside, he appeared to endorse Yoon's efforts to reform the medical system in the country, suggesting a four-party discussion between the government, ruling and opposition parties and the medical community, adding that expanding medical school admissions was a major task that must be accomplished. He also backed Yoon's push for pension reform, saying the DP would actively cooperate. The president responded that he'd anticipated these such topics to be raised and invited Lee to elaborate in a more private setting.
And Soo-young, it appears that Lee didn't mince his words. So what comes next after this team meeting? There was no joint declaration?
That's right. The two sides decided to hold two separate press briefings on each side after the meeting, which was held for 2 hours and 15 minutes, according to Yoon's senior press secretary, Lee Do-hun. Now, the first meeting, of course, it wasn't held to produce outcomes, but rather to establish the starting points of communication and cooperation, with President Yoon having initially said when he invited Lee Jae-myung to hold their first ever talks to meet frequently onwards to talk together, to eat together and discuss state affairs. However, the Democratic Party has made clear their demands, rather pressuring Yoon to make political concessions. So we're going to have to see how both sides navigate through these differences. Lee Do-hun told reporters after the briefing that to narrow their differences in approach to policy, the president suggested a bipartisan consultation body, while Lee rather indicated that he prefers to keep negotiations within the existing framework of the National Assembly, where he, of course, holds a majority. What they did manage to agree on, though, was the need for medical and pension reform, so perhaps there could be baby steps taken there. Yoon and Lee also, they agreed to continue these meetings in the future in various formats as needed, not necessarily this one-to-one tea time approach. The ruling and opposition parties, of course, they're going to be taking their next steps based on the outcome of today's talks. And the DP has been calling for an extraordinary session of the National Assembly with a plenary session that they're hoping to schedule for Thursday to push through their bills on special investigations, which critics view as highly politicized moves that rather target the Yoon administration, as well as measures to improve livelihoods, which could impact the country's fiscal soundness. Now, on cooperation between the two parties, between the presidential office and the opposition, it is too early to read the tea leaves. But the presidential office says it hopes that this first tea meeting will lead to continued bipartisan communication and cooperation. So that's all from me for now. Back to you, Jung-min.
Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young, thank you.